I want you to try something with me right now. Place both hands flat on your thighs and press down firmly. Now slide your hands down toward your knees, paying attention to the temperature as you go. Did you notice that? The shift from warm to cool? That gradient where your upper thighs feel one way and your lower legs feel completely different? That temperature drop you just felt isn't normal. It's not just aging. It's your body screaming that blood isn't reaching where it needs to go. I'm Dr. Rebecca Monroe, and for 28 years, I've specialized in vascular health in older adults. And what I'm about to tell you contradicts the advice you've probably received from every doctor you've seen about your legs. They've been wrong. Not uninformed, not outdated, wrong. Because that heaviness you feel when you stand up from a chair, that's not arthritis. The coldness in your feet that keeps you awake at night, that's not poor socks. The exhaustion that hits you halfway through the grocery store, that's not being out of shape. That's vascular starvation. Your leg muscles are suffocating because your blood vessels have been deprived of the specific nutrients they need to stay open, flexible, and functional. And the medical establishment has been so focused on treating heart attacks and strokes that they've completely ignored what's happening in your legs until you can't walk anymore. Think back 3 years. Could you stand in your kitchen and prepare an entire meal without needing to sit down? Could you walk through your neighborhood without your calves burning? Could you climb a flight of stairs without your thighs feeling like they weighed 50 pounds each? When exactly did that change? And here's the question that should make you furious. Why did your doctor tell you it was inevitable? Because it's not. A 9-year study published in Circulation Research tracked over 3,400 adults over age 70. The ones who maintained optimal levels of 6 specific micronutrients had blood flow measurements in their lower legs that were 340% better than those who were deficient. 340%. These weren't people who ran marathons. They weren't genetic outliers. They were ordinary people who gave their blood vessels what they actually needed instead of what their doctors assumed was good enough. Your doctor tests whether you're sick enough to need medication. They check if your cholesterol might kill you, if your blood pressure might cause a stroke, if your blood sugar screams diabetes. They're measuring catastrophe. Nobody is measuring whether your blood vessels have the raw materials they need to keep working as you age. And that's why your legs feel the way they do. Here's what actually happens inside your calves and thighs when you're deficient in these nutrients. The inner lining of your blood vessels, called the endothelium, begins to break down. Calcium deposits where it shouldn't be. Free radicals attack vessel walls. The tiny capillaries that deliver oxygen to your muscles start closing off one by one. Your muscles don't suddenly get weaker, they get starved. And conventional medicine has been treating the symptom weak legs while completely ignoring the cause. I'm going to walk you through 6 vitamins today, ranked from supportive to absolutely critical. And I'm warning you right now, the number 1 vitamin on this list demonstrated results in clinical trials that were so dramatic, I had to verify the research with 3 separate sources because I didn't believe it the first time I read it. But before we go any further, I need you to make a decision. If what I just said resonated with you, if you've been told your leg problems are just part of getting older and you're tired of accepting that answer, then subscribe to this channel right now. Not because I need the numbers, because you need the information. This video is part 1 of a protocol that could give you back a decade of mobility. But if you don't subscribe, YouTube will bury the follow-up content and you'll never see the implementation guide, the food combinations that triple absorption, or the dosing mistakes that make these vitamins completely useless. You have a choice right now. You can stay on the path you're on, accepting decline as inevitable, or you can take one small action that signals to yourself that you're done being dismissed. Hit subscribe, do it now. Then we'll talk about vitamin number 6 and why everything you've been told about calcium is making your circulation worse, not better. Everything you know about vitamin K is wrong. Your doctor told you it helps your blood clot. That's vitamin K1. What I'm about to show you is vitamin K2, and it does something completely different. Something that determines whether your leg arteries stay flexible and open, or slowly turn into rigid tubes that can barely push blood past your knees. Here's what's happening inside your vessels right now if you're K2 deficient. Calcium is leaching out of your bones where it belongs and depositing itself directly into the walls of your leg arteries. When calcium infiltrates a blood vessel, that vessel becomes stiff, rigid, unable to expand and contract the way it needs to push blood upward from your feet against gravity. Imagine trying to pump water through a rubber hose versus a metal pipe. That's the difference between a healthy artery and a calcified one. A 10-year study out of the Netherlands followed 4,800 people and found something that should have changed medical practice overnight. Participants with the highest K2 intake had 57% less arterial calcification compared to those with the lowest intake. 57%. That's not marginal improvement. That's the difference between walking independently at 80 and needing a walker at 72. I had a patient named Dorothy who came to me at 74. Her leg ultrasound showed calcification so severe that her cardiologist told her she'd need a vascular procedure within the year. Her legs felt like lead pipes, she said. Cold, heavy, useless. We started her on 180 micrograms of MK7 daily, the right form of K2, which I'll explain in a moment. 6 months later, her follow-up scan showed measurable reduction in arterial stiffness, not stabilization, reduction. Her cardiologist called me personally to ask what we'd done differently. Dorothy still sends me photos of her morning walks, 2 miles now, every single day. But here's where this gets frustrating. Vitamin K2 has almost completely disappeared from the modern diet. Our grandparents got it naturally from butter, egg yolks, and liver from grass-fed animals. Today, unless those animals are eating grass, which factory-farmed animals don't, those foods contain virtually no K2. The richest natural source is a Japanese fermented soybean dish called natto. But unless you grew up eating it, natto tastes like something that's already gone bad. The smell alone makes most people gag. And even if you could find K2-rich foods and stomach them daily, there's another problem. After age 70, your gut bacteria, which help convert K1 from vegetables into K2, start dying off. Your body's natural production system fails precisely when you need it most. So supplementation becomes essential, but the form determines everything. You want MK7, not MK4. MK7 stays active in your bloodstream for 72 hours. That means sustained protection around the clock. MK4 is metabolized and eliminated within 6 to 8 hours. You're protected for less than a third of the day. The dose that showed actual reversal of arterial calcification in clinical trials is 180 micrograms daily, not 45, not 90, 180 micrograms of the MK7 form specifically. And here's the detail that determines whether this works or completely fails. K2 is fat soluble. Your body cannot absorb it without dietary fat present in your digestive system at the same time. If you take K2 with black coffee and dry toast, you've wasted your money. Most of it will pass through unused. Take it with breakfast if you're eating eggs cooked in butter, or with dinner if that's when you eat fatty fish or avocado. You need at least 15 grams of fat in that meal for optimal absorption. Grass-fed butter, aged cheeses like Gouda, and pasture-raised egg yolks are your best food sources. But realistically, you'd need to eat large amounts daily to reach therapeutic levels, which is why supplementation is critical for anyone over 70 with circulation concerns. One more thing. K2 works synergistically with vitamin D3. They're partners. D3 increases calcium absorption from your food, and K2 directs that calcium into your bones and teeth away from your arteries. Taking D3 without K2 can actually accelerate arterial calcification. You're absorbing more calcium, but giving your body no instructions where to put it, so it defaults to depositing it in soft tissues, including your vessel walls. That's why our next vitamin is critical, because while K2 prevents new calcium deposits, this next one protects your vessel walls from the oxidative damage that makes calcification possible in the first place. This is vitamin E, but not the kind you think. When your doctor tells you to take vitamin E, they're probably recommending alpha-tocopherol. That's the synthetic form you'll find in 95% of supplements on pharmacy shelves. And it does almost nothing for leg circulation. What you actually need is something called tocotrienols, a completely different form of vitamin E that most doctors have never even heard of. And the research on what tocotrienols do for blood vessel health is so compelling, I'm shocked it's not standard protocol for anyone over 65. Let me explain what's happening at the cellular level. Your blood vessels are lined with a single layer of endothelial cells. Think of them as tiles covering the inside of a pipe. When those cells are healthy, blood flows smoothly. But when free radicals attack those cells, they become inflamed, sticky, and damaged. Damaged endothelium attracts white blood cells and cholesterol particles like a magnet. Plaque begins forming, blood flow slows, and your leg muscles start suffocating. Tocotrienols are 40 to 60 times more powerful at neutralizing free radicals than regular vitamin E. They penetrate cell membranes faster, stay active longer, and protect endothelial cells from the oxidative stress that triggers inflammation in the first place. A study published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry followed 121 patients with compromised leg circulation for 18 months. Half received tocotrienols, half received standard alpha-tocopherol. The tocotrienol group showed a 68% improvement in endothelial function tests. The alpha-tocopherol group, 9%. 68% versus 9%. That's not a rounding error. That's the difference between a supplement that actually works and one that's basically expensive urine. I had a patient named Vincent, 79 years old, who'd been taking standard vitamin E for 12 years because his internist told him it was good for his heart. His legs were so weak he couldn't walk from his car to the restaurant entrance without stopping. Twice. When I switched him to tocotrienols, specifically the delta and gamma forms, he noticed a difference within 3 weeks. Not a miracle, not suddenly running marathons, but a noticeable difference. Within 8 weeks, he walked from his parking spot into the restaurant without stopping. His wife cried when she told me. She said it was the first time in 2 years they'd gone to dinner without him needing the wheelchair in the trunk. Here's why tocotrienols work when regular vitamin E doesn't. They have an unsaturated side chain that allows them to move freely through cell membranes. Alpha-tocopherol has a saturated side chain. It's bulky, slow, and gets stuck. Think of it like trying to thread a needle. Tocotrienols are thin thread. Alpha-tocopherol is rope. But here's the problem. Tocotrienols are rare in the food supply. You'd find them in rice bran oil, palm oil, and annatto seeds, foods most Americans never consume. And even if you did eat them regularly, you'd need massive quantities to reach therapeutic doses. Supplementation is the only realistic option, and the form matters enormously. You want a blend that contains all 4 tocotrienols: alpha, beta, gamma, and delta. Delta tocotrienol has shown the most dramatic effects on endothelial protection in studies, but they work synergistically. You need all 4 present. The effective dose in clinical trials is 400 to 600 milligrams daily. Not 100, not 200, at minimum 400 milligrams of mixed tocotrienols. And like K2, tocotrienols are fat soluble. You need to take them with a meal containing at least 15 grams of fat, or your body will eliminate most of it unused. Olive oil, nuts, fatty fish, avocado, any of those will work. One critical warning: if you're currently taking alpha-tocopherol, you need to stop before starting tocotrienols. Alpha-tocopherol actually interferes with tocotrienol absorption. They compete for the same receptors in your cells, and alpha-tocopherol wins because it's structurally larger. Taking them together is like trying to drink water while someone's holding your nose. The benefits get blocked. So if you've been taking standard vitamin E for years thinking you were protecting your circulation, you weren't. You were wasting money and potentially blocking the compound that could actually help. But while tocotrienols protect your vessel walls from oxidative damage, our next vitamin does something even more fundamental. It tells your blood vessels when to relax and when to constrict, and without it, blood flow to your legs becomes chaotic and unpredictable. This is magnesium. And the form you're probably taking is completely wrong. Your blood vessels are supposed to dance. Contract when you stand up to push blood upward against gravity. Relax when you sit down to allow nutrient-rich blood to flood your muscles. This constant rhythm tightening and releasing is what keeps your legs functioning. But if you're magnesium deficient, that dance stops. Your vessels lock in a semi-contracted state, blood flow becomes sluggish, your calves cramp, your feet turn cold. And no amount of walking or stretching fixes it because the problem isn't muscular, it's vascular. Magnesium is the master regulator of smooth muscle tissue, and your blood vessel walls are made almost entirely of smooth muscle. Without adequate magnesium, those vessels can't relax properly. They stay tight, constricted, starving your leg muscles of the oxygen and nutrients they desperately need. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition tracked magnesium levels in 3,713 adults over age 65. Those in the lowest quartile of magnesium had peripheral artery disease rates 340% higher than those in the highest quartile. 340%. That's not correlation. That's causation. Low magnesium doesn't just correlate with poor leg circulation. It directly causes it by preventing your vessels from functioning normally. I had a patient named Robert, 71, who came to me with leg cramps so severe he couldn't sleep through the night. He'd been taking magnesium oxide, the kind you buy at any drugstore, for 6 months. His doctor had tested his blood magnesium and said it was normal. Here's the problem. Blood magnesium tests are almost worthless. Your body will leach magnesium out of your bones and muscles to keep blood levels stable, because if blood magnesium drops too low, your heart stops. A normal blood test doesn't mean your tissues have enough magnesium. It means your body is cannibalizing itself to maintain appearances. When I switched Robert from magnesium oxide to magnesium glycinate, a form his body could actually absorb his cramps, disappeared within 10 days. Within 6 weeks, he told me his legs felt lighter. He could walk his dog again without his calves seizing up halfway through the block. His blood magnesium test still looked normal, but his tissue magnesium had finally been replenished. Here's why most magnesium supplements fail. Absorption rates are abysmal. Magnesium oxide, the cheapest and most common form, has a bioavailability of about 4%. That means if you take 400 milligrams, your body absorbs roughly 16 milligrams. The rest passes through your digestive system and causes diarrhea. You're essentially paying for expensive laxatives. Magnesium citrate is slightly better at around 25% absorption, but it still has significant GI side effects for many people. Your gut can only absorb so much elemental magnesium at once before it triggers a flush response. Magnesium glycinate is different. It's bound to the amino acid glycine, which acts as a transport molecule. Your gut recognizes it as a protein fragment and absorbs it through different pathways, ones that don't trigger the diarrhea response. Bioavailability of magnesium glycinate is approximately 80%. That means when you take 400 milligrams, your body actually receives 320 milligrams. You're getting 20 times more magnesium into your tissues than you would from oxide. The therapeutic dose for restoring vascular function is 400 to 500 milligrams of elemental magnesium daily from glycinate, not from oxide, not from citrate, from glycinate specifically. And timing matters. Magnesium also promotes relaxation of the nervous system, which is why many people find it helps with sleep quality. Taking it in the evening about an hour before bed gives you dual benefits: better vessel function and improved sleep. But here's what almost nobody tells you. Calcium and magnesium compete for absorption. If you're taking a calcium supplement or eating a calcium-rich meal, you need to separate it from your magnesium dose by at least 2 hours. Otherwise, the calcium blocks magnesium uptake, and you've wasted the dose. This is especially important if you're taking the calcium and vitamin D combination supplements that doctors love to prescribe for bone health. Those need to be taken in the morning. Magnesium needs to be taken at night, never together. Now, magnesium relaxes your blood vessels. Tocotrienols protect them from damage. K2 prevents calcification. But our next vitamin does something none of the others can do. It actually signals your body to build new blood vessels where old ones have closed off. This is vitamin B3, but not niacin, not niacinamide, a specific form that changes everything. Most people think vitamin B3 is just niacin, the kind that makes your skin flush red and itch like you've been attacked by fire ants. And because of that miserable side effect, they avoid it completely. But there's a form of B3 called nicotinamide riboside that does something extraordinary for leg circulation without any flushing whatsoever. It doesn't just protect existing blood vessels. It tells your body to grow new ones. This process is called angiogenesis, the formation of new capillary networks. And after age 70, your body's natural angiogenesis capacity drops by more than 60%. The tiny blood vessels that feed your leg muscles start dying off faster than they're replaced. Nicotinamide riboside activates a protein called VEGF, vascular endothelial growth factor. VEGF is like a construction foreman for blood vessels. It signals your body to send stem cells to areas with poor circulation and literally build new pathways for blood to flow. A study from the Journal of Clinical Investigation followed 142 adults with peripheral circulatory decline for 24 weeks. Those taking 300 milligrams of nicotinamide riboside daily showed a 47% increase in capillary density in their lower legs compared to placebo. 47% more blood vessels. Not wider vessels, more vessels. I had a patient named Eleanor, 76, whose feet were so cold at night she wore wool socks to bed even in summer. Her husband joked that touching her feet was like grabbing ice cubes. She'd been to 3 doctors. All of them said it was just poor circulation from aging, nothing to be done. When I added nicotinamide riboside to her protocol, she noticed warmth returning to her feet within 5 weeks. Not dramatic warmth, just normal. She told me she cried the first night she took her socks off before bed and her feet didn't feel frozen. Her body had built new capillaries, small ones, but enough to restore normal blood flow to tissue that had been starving for years. The effective dose is 300 milligrams daily. You won't find this in regular B-complex vitamins. It's a specialized form, and it's more expensive than standard niacin, but it works without the flushing, and more importantly, it addresses a mechanism none of the other vitamins touch. Nicotinamide riboside also boosts NAD+ levels, a cellular energy molecule that declines with age. Higher NAD+ means your existing blood vessels function more efficiently. You're not just building new highways, you're also maintaining the ones you have. Take it in the morning because it can increase cellular energy and potentially interfere with sleep if taken late in the day. Now let's talk about the vitamin your doctor probably has tested and told you to take, but in a way that's making your leg circulation worse, not better. Vitamin D3. You've heard it's good for bones, good for immunity, good for mood, all true. But what almost nobody talks about is D3's direct effect on vascular smooth muscle cells, the same cells that line your leg arteries. D3 regulates something called endothelial nitric oxide synthase. That's the enzyme responsible for producing nitric oxide, the molecule that tells your blood vessels to relax and dilate. Without adequate D3, your vessels can't produce enough nitric oxide. They stay constricted. Blood flow drops. A meta-analysis in Atherosclerosis reviewed 17 studies involving over 8,000 participants. Those with vitamin D levels below 30 ng/ml had peripheral artery disease rates 290% higher than those above 40 ng/ml. But here's the critical part. Most doctors test your D3, and if it's above 20 ng/ml, they call it sufficient. 20 is not sufficient. 20 is you won't get rickets. For optimal vascular function, you need levels between 50 and 70 ng/ml. I had a patient named Thomas, 68, whose D3 level was 24 ng/ml. His doctor said it was fine. His legs felt like concrete every morning. When we brought his level up to 58 ng/ml over 3 months, he told me it felt like someone had turned the lights back on in his legs. The dose required to reach optimal levels varies by person, but most people over 70 need 4,000 to 5,000 IU daily, not the 1,000 IU your multivitamin contains. And remember what I said in the K2 section. D3 without K2 is dangerous. D3 increases calcium absorption. K2 directs where that calcium goes. Taking D3 alone can accelerate the exact arterial calcification you're trying to prevent. Always take them together. 5,000 IU of D3 with 180 micrograms of K2 MK7 every single day with a fat-containing meal. Now, nicotinamide riboside builds new vessels. D3 helps them dilate. But our number one vitamin, the one that showed the most dramatic circulation improvements in clinical trials, does something none of the others can do. It directly dissolves the microscopic clots that form in your smallest leg vessels overnight. Clots so tiny they don't show up on any scan, but slowly choke off blood flow year after year. This is nattokinase. And it's not technically a vitamin, it's an enzyme. But what it does for aging legs borders on miraculous. Nattokinase isn't a vitamin. It's an enzyme extracted from that same fermented soybean dish I mentioned earlier, natto. And what it does inside your blood vessels is unlike anything else we've discussed. Every night while you sleep, microscopic fibrin clots form in your smallest capillaries. Your body is supposed to dissolve them naturally, but after age 70, that cleanup system fails. These microclots accumulate like debris in a pipe, slowly choking off blood flow to your leg muscles. Nattokinase dissolves fibrin. Directly, aggressively, safely. A Japanese study followed 186 adults with poor leg circulation for 12 months. Those taking 2,000 FU fibrinolytic units of nattokinase daily showed 73% improvement in microcirculatory blood flow measurements. 73%. I had a patient named Helen, 81, who'd accepted she would never walk without pain again. 3 months on nattokinase, she walked a mile. She said her legs felt awake for the first time in 5 years. The dose is 2,000 FU daily, taken on an empty stomach either first thing in the morning or right before bed. Food interferes with absorption. If you're on blood thinners like warfarin, you cannot take nattokinase without physician supervision. It has real anticoagulant effects. Nattokinase dissolves clots. Nicotinamide riboside builds new vessels. Vitamin D3 makes them dilate. Magnesium makes them dance. Tocotrienols protect them. K2 prevents calcification. 6 nutrients, all working together, all supported by peer-reviewed research. This isn't a miracle cure. It's basic vascular biology that conventional medicine ignores because there's no prescription drug that does what these nutrients do. If you're serious about reclaiming your mobility, screenshot this video. Subscribe for the full dosing protocol. Your legs aren't broken. They're starving. Let's feed them.